I tell people that property management will make or break a deal. And a lot of people that I know don't do that because they don't want to spend the money anyway. And so they end up getting residents who are worthless or destroy their home or something like that. So you definitely want good management. They handle the 2 o'clock calls when the toilet backs up or the dishwasher breaks or their air conditioning is not cooling anymore and it's 115 degrees and you're on vacation. Guess what? They're the ones that are there handling it. And so welcome to the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast, where precision meets performance in commercial real estate. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and every week we deep dive into the strategies and systems and stories behind rock solid underwriting. Whether you're a seasoned analyst, an up and coming investor, or a commercial real estate professional looking to sharpen your edge, this show is your front row seat to expert insights, emerging trends, and real world underwriting tactics that stand the test of time and scrutiny. From market assumptions to debt structuring, cap rates to cash flow, we're cutting through the noise and getting to the numbers that matter. So sharpen your pencils and fire up those models. Let's get to work. This is Ironclad Underwriting. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Williams. And again, good friend, Frank Patalano, business partner, recurring guest, basically co-host. He's got too much other stuff though to commit to being a co-host, so he just comes at his leisure. So, how you doing, Frank?
Hey, not too bad, sir. Yeah, I mean, I've been on probably just about every episode so far as I know, but I can't guarantee it. You never know. I'm always super busy. I got 3 trips planned in the next 2 months, so yeah.
Now we can maybe do one live somewhere, not live, but in the same location somewhere.
So yeah, I mean, in early November, I'll be near you, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure something out. No promises though, because then that means I have to move my studio as well. um, if you're with us last episode, we talked about stress testing and sensitivity studies and why it's a good idea to do it. And if you want to learn more, how to reach out and find me. But this week, what I wanted to talk about is, and this comes up a lot, is when you're buying real estate, you need a team. Real estate's not a one-man sport, but I'm not talking like just a GP team. I'm talking who do you need to like bat for you. So you need like an accountant, you need a tax advisor, you need an agent or a broker, or like a real estate agent or a broker. You need insurance, you need lending, you need management. If you do in-house management, that's good for you. So you can check that one off list and you're like a one-man show for that. But you can't do all these other things. Need an attorney, need inspectors and contractors. And I know a lot of people, they try to do all of these things and they end up floundering. But what I want to go into is why you need these things and why you shouldn't try to do everything yourself. So where do we begin?
So I mean, I assume we're going to dive deep into all those and the reasons why, but when we say team here, we're talking about your experts and advisors.
Yes.
You know, the people that are important for you to make sure that you're doing things the right way, or at least having your back um, when you're either buying or when you're managing or owning a property.
Yeah. And generally I know a lot of people who dabble in real estate. They'll like buy a house and they'll try to fix it up themselves and they'll try to self-manage it, and they might make a lease themselves or they download one off of Google or something like that. And they 9 times out of 10 that person ends up giving up. And you probably know people like that as well, Frank. Is that, well, real estate, it's just not for me. I'm not going to do that, and I don't want to spend the 10% or whatever for property management because that's $100 a month. I don't want to have to spend. It's like, okay, well, there you go. Um, but starting off, I guess from where I began with like an accountant, it's like most people I know are not CPAs. A lot of people, they try to do their own taxes, like with a TurboTax or something. But really, you want to have an accountant for your property. for many different reasons. If you buy like a single residential home, you want everything to be depreciated properly. You want all the depreciation schedules done properly, and an accountant should be able to do that. Um, and I've actually used probably a dozen different accountants. Not every accountant can do what we want. Not every accountant is does real estate or understands real estate. Some might understand like a just a small business, like a mom and pop corner store or something like that, but they don't understand real estate. So you need to find an accountant that understands real estate and gets you the best benefit you can for that. Um, if you have like a syndication, you definitely want an accountant who does real estate because you're having to issue K1s to all your investors. And most accountants I know, I mean, they can issue a K1, but they don't really know what's going on and they don't really know the questions to ask. They might just fill out a form online, like in the advanced TurboTax or something that some accountants use. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you want an accountant. You're going to say something, Frank?
I mean, I'm just giving opinions on an accountant and the need to have an accountant. And obviously, yes, you need to have an accountant if you're doing anything in real estate, preferably a good one. Uh, I remember before I owned real estate, I was able to do my own taxes. I almost went for a degree in accounting. I decided to go for a degree in teaching instead. Um, I consider myself well versed, but not an expert in accounting. And even I learned new stuff from my accountants. My first one, I made sure they have many clients that were real estate. Um, on average, my main accountants, I consider them like your main barber. You're not switching them that often. So you said 10 accountants. I'm assuming you mean for different deals, etc.
No, no, I'm like graduated onto different ones. I had to fire so many ones because they were falling behind or they weren't doing things the way that I wanted them to get done.
Gotcha.
And
I mean, when I say I have one main accountant, he does. I have 10 different LLCs besides single purpose entities, and my main one handles four or five of them. But then with different partnerships, some of the partners might have an accountant they use for the rest of their stuff, and I'm fine with following along and being a part of it. I've definitely seen good accounts, and I've definitely seen bad accounts where I've had to go back 5 times to correct the current one of the current returns that we're working on. So
yeah,
finding mistakes that they've made is just crazy to me. And a good accountant can be worth their weight in gold
yeah,
because we have one thing going on right now. It's a very complicated transaction, and we're talking a 10x difference in the amount owed, depending on which strategy. And we worked on it, and we're saving money.
yeah. And another thing with and this goes for all of your advisors and team that we're about to hit on, but accountant laws are yeah, they laws change
Yep.
every year, and your accountants need to be abreast of all the changes happening and how they affect you, and they need to account for that. And if you're trying to do it yourself, you're probably not staying abreast with all of the laws that are happening, what you can depreciate, how fast you can depreciate something, and there's just all sorts of it. And that's why they have like continuing education for all these professional um
Yeah. Every year there's
professions.
new state level, national level, sometimes even county or local level changes to the way in which things are taxed.
Yep.
Etc. One little thing to consider too is besides just the accountant, and it doesn't have to be the same person. It could be you, but also the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
You know,
Bookkeeper, and then I was going to say that with the accountant is like bookkeeping, you want good books. If you have good books, you have a good bookkeeper, and they're like your tax accountant or whatever. That's just like a bonus because they have all the information they need versus you having to send everything and trying to track down all the information. So I mean that's just another bonus on why you would want a bookkeeper or an accountant to be in the same firm.
yeah, you don't see that a lot. I mean, for example, I use so in case people don't know, I own a virtual assistant company. We have bookkeepers that we hire out. So
Yeah. Um Another big one, and this one probably saved us the most money, is our tax advisor, our real estate tax advisor. Um, these people are definitely worth their weight in gold. We had a property that appraised, well, they wanted, it was like $80,000 in taxes, and these people reduced it down to 60 or something. It was like a $25,000 tax savings, and they ended up charging us maybe like $2,000. So it was definitely uh worth their weight in gold. And these people, they are abreast of all the tax laws. They know what's going on. They have the case studies on why certain properties can and can't be evaluated at certain valuations. um and again, I invest in Texas, so my tax advisor is in DFW, and they're giving me court cases in Houston where it's like one property was evaluated at a certain amount and every other property in that county was not. And so they either had to value the whole county the same way or reduce that one property down. And if they evaluated the whole county that way, they probably would have bankrupted the county because taxes would be through the roof for everybody. But there's like these court cases and precedents that they have to keep track of, and that's what they use to argue on your behalf on why taxes should be lower for you. So
I don't consider so maybe it's more of a Texas thing, or maybe there's certain states that need it more than others. I would say besides my Texas deals, I don't have a tax property tax consultant advisor. I mean, we can argue taxes in some states, but in some states it's more to do with what you paid for it and stuff like that. So I wouldn't consider that person one of the core people on my team, depending on the size of it. But I understand that in Texas, yes.
uh, it all depends on where you invest. Texas is a non-disclosure state. There's like a dozen non-disclosure states. So if you invest in a non-disclosure state and you can protest your taxes, and you don't have to disclose how much you purchase a property for, then they are definitely worth their weight in gold. Um, like in Texas, we
We
don't
can
have to say,
protest, just a different system to do it.
yeah, and you really probably can't do it the year you buy something, because like, well, it's like, well, you bought it for 6 million, so that's what we're evaluating the property at 6 million. In Texas, you might buy it for 6 million, but it's valued at 2.8 million, and then it jumps up to 5.6, so your taxes double. And so that's when you have your advisors come in and knock it back down to 3 or something like that. So I mean, it's very nuanced and definitely a requirement in Texas, unless you just want to pay for no reason. So
There you go. Something that I can think of that you really need to have is a good insurance broker. Many times when we're looking at new deals, when we're underwriting deals, we want to get, an idea of what the insurance rate is going to be. It's not the easiest thing to do. Is you have to contact someone that you've worked with in the insurance field, and obviously they're helping you because they think they're going to get more business. And I'm
mhm.
not saying you can't shop around once in a while, but it's good to be a little loyal as well. You can definitely save money and help you underwrite deals by getting a soft quote or even a firmer quote on the insurance before you make an offer.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, we invest in Texas. Texas insurance went from what, like 400 or 500 per unit up to almost 1100 per unit in a matter of 3 years. So having an insurance broker is definitely a plus. And if you can get with them while you're underwriting a deal to see if it makes sense, that is a huge plus. So what do they call that? I can't think of the term right now.
So they're saying a soft quote.
Yeah, it's like a soft quote, and then and really what it is like a range. So it's like, well, we feel like you'll be charged between 89,000 and 126,000, and it's probably going to fall out somewhere in the middle, but prepare for either. Generally, I go for the highest number
But
they
you're
give.
conservatively underwriting.
Yeah, so you always want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So, um, but if you do try to shop around for the same property and you're using different brokers, this gets even more nuanced, and I go more into it in my course. But there's different types of insurance. There's like umbrella, there's hail and wind, there's liability insurance. And so they might grab like liability or hail and wind from different places. But when you're shopping around, if you're going to a different broker and they see like a broker on file for this property, that means that that next broker can't look at that property anymore. They can't get you a quote because the other broker's listed as the broker on file.
They can get you a quote, but it has to be from different carriers.
Yeah. So I mean, so maybe carrier A is the best for the umbrella, and carrier B is best for liability, and your broker went to A and C, but then the next broker can go to B and D is just like stupid, expensive, and not worth doing anything. So you then it's hard to compare that way. So definitely want a good broker on your team. Find one you like, find one who's helpful, find one who'll give you the soft quotes, because if they do that for you, then and they will more likely bat for you too. If something goes wrong and you have a fire and your insurance company only wants to pay you 60 cents on the dollar, they're going to fight for you to get the full dollar because that's what their job is. So be like the middleman between you and insurance.
So another quick example with insurance, we had a deal where we were paying $26,000 a year. That carrier left the state. Um, the first quote we got from a new carrier was 84,000, and our broker worked their butt off, went to bat, and we ended up getting a quote at 51, which still sounds painful. But I mean, I have a lot of connections in the insurance industry, and I had two other people quote it. I had one guy say, "Frank, I can't get a dollar under 65,000. Take the 51 and run."
Yeah.
So
So I mean, insurance doubles, but it's better than tripling. So
yeah, yeah. Who else you need on your team?
um, you would, and this is maybe you need somebody like an insurance or not an insurance real estate broker or agent, but I don't think you have to be as loyal with this one, but you still need to at least make good contacts with them so that they let you know of deals coming up, or if you're looking for a deal, they can help you find the deals. So and if you buy a property, especially a commercial property, you're going to be flooded with broker calls, and they're always going to know what's your buy box, what do you want, what are you looking for, do you want 80s or newer build, um you want regular pitched roofers and not the whatever flat roofs or the Menard or Mance or whatever they're called roofs. Um, you want like all bills paid versus individually metered, boiler chiller versus um, individual HVAC units for each one. And so if they get what your buy box is, they can at least whenever something comes up, they can let you know about it. And then generally, if you're under contract and you went through the broker, they're going to be your point of contact. So you're going to go to them for everything. It's like, well, I need the new latest financials for the property. If you're under contract and it takes 60 days to close, those that's 2 months worth of financials that you need updated, and you have to reach out to your broker to get them. Otherwise, you really can't. And you need to make sure that the property is still maintained in the status that you got under contract with. Um, because a lot of times that's in the contract that the seller has to maintain the status quo until um, closing.
It's always good to have connections with real estate brokers and real estate agents, even if you're not always working with them directly. If they bring you a deal, they get paid. So having good connections with them obviously works. I mean, it's not just stuff that's on market. More, it was, years and years ago, there was no MLS where everybody was searching. So your connections to the brokers is actually what made you found deals. Then we went to like a full MLS, and now I feel like MLS is like breaking apart a little bit, especially on the commercial side. There's not really, LoopNet, Crexy, stuff like that, but there's a lot of legal pocket listings and
Yeah.
legal off-market deals that are out there that people have individual um, ability to see. So if you have good connections, you might be able to see things that other people don't know about. It's funny because I do some international investing, and that's pretty common in other parts of the world.
And another thing, go on that is I have many brokers call me up and because I'm an owner in my market, they call me up and say, "Hey, this property is coming up for sale. We're going to list it in 3 weeks, but we wanted to give you first look, the first chance to buy it because they know I will close and I'm already an operator in the market, so I have an interest in other deals in the market. So when they bring me stuff like that, I mean, I go through the numbers and make sure, and like I'll tell them, it's like, well, this is what I think it'll be, or this is all we can offer, and and I think a lot of times what they do, one is they use that as their BOV. It's like, well, this is what we think it'll bring in, and they're using my numbers to do that. Um, because it's like basically I'm offering, all right, I run the numbers and I can buy this property for 11 million, and maybe they were thinking 13 million, but now they take that 11 million offer, and one, they offer it to the seller, and then they can decide if that's needed or not, and then they can sort of recalibrate the seller. It's like, well, this is probably what you're most likely going to get offers around 11, 11 and a half,
We'll trade
maybe.
for it.
Yeah, so they do bring me that. I haven't purchased a property done like that yet, but I have looked at numerous properties like that, and really with like the interest rates climbing and cap rates climbing, it's like I can't offer what they're needing. And we talked about this, I think, in our last episode, where the buyer is not obligated to get the seller out of their loan or any other contracts the seller got themselves into. The buyer is out to make the best deal for himself and his own investors. So
Another person that's important to have in your team, no matter what the size of the property is property management. So
yeah.
whether you're self-managing, where you're the property manager, or finding a good third-party property manager, property management is obviously super important for anything you own. Most of the time, there are a lot of good property managers. There are a lot of bad property managers. I've dealt with both. The ones that I like, I try to keep and do more with. The ones that I don't like, I try to move on quickly from. Sometimes it's not as quick as I want it to be.
Uh, I tell people that property management will make or break a deal. You can have the best business plan in the world. I mean, this is most realistic. Things can happen like this, but if you don't have a property management that can carry that out, they're going to sink you. And
Yeah,
so,
property manager is more important than an insurance broker.
yeah, I mean, they handle the day to day goings on. Um, this is typically where I see a lot of people flounder and get out of real estate because they try to do it themselves. With property management, I always tell people, it's like, all right, with a good property manager, they're doing background checks, they're doing credit checks, criminal history, they're doing renter history. Have they ever been evicted before? Um, and they have economies of scale going on. So if they're managing hundreds, if not thousands of properties, they can subscribe to all these channels that allow them to check the backgrounds of people at like a minimal cost. Whereas if I do it, I have to spend like $100 per resident because I have to do it on a per case basis. And a lot of people that I know don't do that because they don't want to spend the money anyway. And so they end up getting residents who are worthless or destroy their home or something like that. So you definitely want good management. Um, they handle the 2 o'clock calls when the toilet backs up or the dishwasher breaks or their air conditioning is not cooling anymore and it's 115 degrees and you're on vacation. Guess what? They're the ones that are there handling it. And so property management is definitely um, the probably the most important one on this list.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about good property managers. Bad property managers are painful in every way.
Yeah, and like I said, they can sink the ship if and they need to be honest. If they say they're doing all these background checks and they're not, and they're bringing in anybody off the street just to fill a vacancy, that's no bueno. Sometimes it's better to be vacant than to have a bad resident. So,
Who else we need on the team there, Jason?
um, lawyers are good for the team. You have all sorts of different lawyers. And like I said, a lot of people go to LegalZoom. They go and download a contract or for a lease, and then they go sign and use that. But you need lawyers with title company. You need lawyers for real estate to negotiate your purchase and sales agreement. And if you are doing a syndication or you're doing some bigger things, you might need like an SEC attorney to make you compliant with the SEC if you're raising funds for it. So and there's probably another handful of different lawyers that you may or may not need. Some of them can do multiple ones in house, so you don't have to find a different lawyer for each one.
Yeah, this eviction attorneys. We've unfortunately had to get a litigator on one of our deals recently, stuff like that. But yeah, you definitely need at least one decent real estate attorney on your team that can look at contracts and give you basic general feedback on partnerships.
Yeah. Yeah, and buying big properties, the PSA is critical. And yeah, like a seller might use just a commercial generic PSA or purchase and sales agreement, but you still want a lawyer to look at it because after that generic PSA, there's usually about 5 to 10 pages of amendments or appendices at the end, and all those matter on what's going to be carried out throughout the contract. And so you want a lawyer to go through one, make sure that they are putting the buyer's best interest, or the seller, depending on which side you are, best interest at heart, and then try to negotiate. Then they will negotiate on your behalf in some regards as well. So attorneys, nobody likes them. They're expensive, but when you need them, they're there, and that's only usually for a short term. It's like you don't have to call up your attorney every week to tell them, all right, property's doing well, and we need another contract. It's like that. That's not typical, but you do need one. So,
I'm laughing that you said nobody likes them. I mean, I like most of my attorneys, so
well, I like my attorneys too, but they do get a bad name,
that's
and
fine. That's fair. All right, so somebody else on your team would be mainly like a contractor, someone with some knowledge of maybe a little bit of plumbing or like electricity, stuff like that, that can walk a property with you and see good, bad, ugly, things that are like big red flags, stuff that might look bad, but it's not that big of a deal and easy to replace. I mean, that can really affect when you're buying properties and as you own properties.
yeah, you want someone to check out roofs. Roofs are a big thing here in Texas. A lot of wind and hail damage, so you want to be able to, like, one, if you know you're going to have to be replacing a roof in 2 3 years, you want to know ahead of time. Um, because roofs can be super expensive. And if you're buying an apartment complex that's 12 or more buildings, that's 12 or more roofs you may have to replace. So, and typically I don't understand it, but roofers also do foundation, and I don't know. At least here in Texas, like they'll look at the foundation and they'll look at the roof. So they like look at the sandwich, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, you want to look at your foundation as well, make sure it's solid, make sure like one of our properties has cracks from like the ground all the way up to the roof because the foundation shifted, but you can also see that it was repaired, but the cracks are still there. They didn't really like blend in the repairs into everything. But I mean, you can at least see that, and so you want someone to go in and make sure there's not going to be any more cracks in the near future. um Plumber, you're going to want someone who can like scope the sewage lines, see if you're going to be replacing those. Um, Almost every single property we bought has had sewage issues, roots growing through it, breaking the line, or collapsed lines, and this goes with my residential stuff as well as my commercial stuff. And this goes from stuff built in the 50s to stuff built in the 90s. So I've always had plumbing issues. You want to have a plumber go in and scope lines. Electricians, they can help you with one, knowing what kind of wires they have. Are they copper? Are they aluminum? Is the main aluminum? If the main is aluminum, that's no bueno. So you need to replace all that with copper. If it's aluminum inside the units, that's okay. I mean, it's not a deal, but it's not going to be cause for concern for like higher interest rates. Um,
How about outdated panels? Oof.
up, Updated panels, like, can if and so they tie in with like insurance. It's like, all right, well, you have an outdated Federal Pacific stab lock panel, and your insurance guy is saying, well, we can get you this rate, but if you get rid of all those panels, you can get it at this rate. And so then you have to like, all right, well, we can spend $250,000 to get rid of all these panels, and it'll save us 20,000. And so you have to, like, well, how long are you planning on holding it and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can go in and tell you what to prepare for. So And like your inspectors are almost like your due diligence team. So, and I recommend, and I'd say this during due diligence: walk every unit. If it's a single family, that's easy. Is you walk every room, everything, inspect the attic and crawl spaces and everything. If it's a 1,000 unit apartment complex, you're going to need a team to walk every unit. Now you might get 90, 95% of it, but I wouldn't settle for less than that. So, because you need to know the status of every single unit. So, but also for a contractor, if you're going to be doing like a heavy value add, or if you're going to be doing like big renovations or anything, you're going to want a contractor to carry those out unless you're going to be swinging the hammer yourself too. And that's another thing is with the real estate investors I know that always floundered and tried to do everything themselves. They were up there every night after work, painting walls, replacing electrical outlets, stuff like that. And so they get home at like, they go up there at 5, get home at 2 in the morning, get up, go to work the next day, and then do it all over again. And so that's not sustainable. So you definitely need somebody who can work while you're doing something else, whether you're working a day job or skiing the mountains or fishing in the Gulf or something like that. So,
You think of anybody else for the team?
one of the biggest ones, your biggest investor is typically your lender, and so you want a lending broker to help you find the best loan. If you have a good relationship with a bank, then you can maybe forgo the broker part, but you still need the lender part, unless you're just buying everything for cash. And I say they're your biggest investor. It's like if you're buying a property, say you're buying a $100,000 house to invest in, you're going to rent it out. Your bank can potentially loan you 70 or $80,000 of that 100,000, meaning you're coming up with 20, 25%. So if they're covering 75 to 80% of it, they're your biggest partner right there. And so you have to make sure that you stay on good terms with them, that you pay them, and if you can have a broker come in and say, all right, we can get you 80% LTV on this single family home, and the rent rate's going to be 5.5, versus you go to your credit union and say, well, we can get you 70% LTV loan to value, and the rate is 6.5. Sometimes it's worth paying the broker their fees just so you can get better rates and better loan terms. So, and one thing, and I think we a few episodes ago we were talking about our lending issues. We had a lender, and it's like, well, we she kept bringing us different loan terms. It's like nothing seemed to work, and so she keep looking and keep looking and keep looking and keep looking, and eventually found something. I don't know how she found it because, well, if I knew how she did it, I'd probably do it, but I don't do it. That's her job. And so she got us something that we think we can do. And so that's what we're moving forward with. But if you don't know all these avenues to go down, you don't know what you don't know, and you're not going to get the best terms or interest rates or loan proceeds or anything. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, having the right broker or lender is super important. Uh, they can easily, especially at refi time, it can make or break you. There are people sometimes that they think they can pull it off, and then in the end, they don't, and it's like you just get screwed.
Yeah.
We had we've had deals before where in the end the lender just put their hands up and said, sorry, we can't lend you on this.
Then another thing about having a lending broker is sometimes the lenders fall short. Like we were trying to do an extension on one of our properties, and we were giving them everything we needed or they needed, but there was like no communication going on. Our was due in January. Here it is March. We don't know what's going on. We've given them whatever money they needed to do what they needed to do to extend it, but nothing was happening. So we made a call to our broker who brokered that deal, and she got on the horn with them and lined them out. And so it's just another person who will bat for you when things go crazy and when the lender themselves are falling short. I mean, technically we were without a loan for 3 months. They could have foreclosed on us, Now, granted, if they did, we would have sued them, but because I mean we're doing everything within good faith to get an extension, and they were dropping the ball. So the broker helped pick the ball up and get the ball rolling and going, and we're able to extend it again. So it's like brokers, even with insurance or lending, it's like it's not a one time done and one and done thing. It's they're there to bat for you throughout the whole process, which is required, which is helpful.
I can't think of anybody else that's like a major player on a team,
Yeah.
of advisors.
Yeah, I think that's it pretty much. If you have any other ideas of who you might need on a team, drop them in the comments or send a message to me, and we'll bring it up in a future episode. So this was a long episode, I think.
Us
But
talking about real estate, of course, it's going to be long.
yeah, we can talk about this stuff all day long. Oh wait, we do talk about this stuff all day long. So um then if you need to find out more information, or if you need contacts on any of the people that we talked about, I have a lot of people, clients, so I consult with, ask me for names for brokers, for lending brokers, insurance, management. They ask me for all sorts of stuff. If you need any of that, I can tell you where to go for information. I can tell you who I use. I don't necessarily endorse them. It's not like it's like, hey, use this and they give me a kickback. None of that happens, but I can tell you what to look for in them. And if you need,
You even get a high five?
I
Maybe an attaboy
sometimes
once in a while?
I get a thank you usually. Thank you for making the contact. And that's about it. I guess if I see him in person, I might get a hug depending on who it is. So again, this is, I don't even know what episode we're on.
16.
16.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for more information, and we can go more in depth on any of this. So let me know what you want to hear about. This is Jason Williams, Ironclad Underwriting, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share the show. And don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or check us out at our website at ironcladunderwriting.com for more insights and updates. If you have a question, a deal you're analyzing, or a topic you want us to tackle, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your assumptions grounded, your models sharp, and your underwriting ironclad.